And to understand those actions, we have to go to Dharma Shastra, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because Shastra by definition is any treatise which systematically enunciates upon a subject matter. That is what Shastra is. A systematic technical enunciation. Shastra, purpose of the Shastra is it orders the knowledge, it systematizes the knowledge and enunciates in a more very technical, very systematic manner, in a very in-depth manner. So like a textbook.
Hmm. The foundational book.
Yes.
So, tell me the evolution of Smriti Dharma Shastra text. Like you mentioned, Parashar Smriti. For which time is it? When was Manusmriti? I would not say written because the writing tradition came a lot later. But I think the orally the Manusmriti that we talk about it was very ancient. I think it is referred to even in Ramayana. So, can you please tell me the evolution of the Smriti text and Dharma Shastra texts?
So, Manu is mentioned even the Vedas itself. The Veda itself
Right,
says
right.
that whatever Manu says is like a medicine. So you might find it bitter, but it is what is really beneficial to you. So that is the significance of the word medicine used in the Veda. See, I think it is very difficult to pinpoint or make any categorical statements about the evolution of the text, or rather, the framework itself is little bit problematic, perhaps, because historical evidences say are very minimal, or whatever the evidences that we got, it can at best describe the the composition or the origination of the extant text that is available today. So, for example, the Indologists date Manusmriti to somewhere between 2nd century BCE to 2nd century CE. But this dating is only about the extant text that is available to us today. It does not take into account the transmission evidences, the stories, the accounts about the transmission of Manusmriti that is present in the Manusmriti itself, or in the text such as Mahabharata, or the other Smritis such as Narada Smriti, etc. Because these
Right.
texts, what they tell is, at a primordial time, it was Bhagavan himself, we call him Narayana or Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, whoever it is Bhagavan himself who taught, who imparted the knowledge about Dharma in its entirety to Swayambhuva Manu. It is not our current Manu. So every Manvantara has a Manu. Our current Manu is Vaivasvata Manu. But the first Manu in this Kalpa is called as Swayambhuva Manu. So at the very beginning of this Kalpa, so we are speaking about millions of years ago. In that cycle, that Brahma imparted the knowledge or Dharma in its entirety to Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, who then taught it to many rishis, many students. And through these different students, different transmission, schools of transmission, different recensions have been transmitted in Guru Shishya Parampara. And at different points in time, what was a very huge encyclopedia text of maybe 100,000 verses or 100,000 chapters, like that, it was condensed by different rishis at different points. So that is what the Narada Smriti's account says. And at another place, even Mahabharata also indicates that. So what we have today, the text with 2650 plus verses, is only the extant text, the most recent version, most recent standardized version of the text that is available to us. But before that, in the Narada Smriti's description of the Manusmriti's transmission history, it speaks about four times when it was redacted. Redacted means condensation. So condensation, it doesn't mean that out of 100,000 verses somebody cherry picked some 10,000 verses and left it otherwise. No, the subject matter itself was condensed into 10,000 verses. That is, those 10,000 verses were new creation, in the sense that new verses were composed. Perhaps some older verses might have been written, but it is mostly new creation. But the subject matter would be condensed. It is still possible that some subject matter not relevant to that time or to that yuga might have been um, left out, but it is mostly a sum total of the knowledge is condensed. Similarly, 10,000 verses, 5,000 verses, the final condensation that Narada Smriti records is a text of having 4,000 verses. And currently we have a text of 2,650 verses. So either there was a further condensation in the form of the current text, or the 4,000 verses text that the Narada Smriti speaks about and attributes it to Sumati Bhargava might have lost some 1,000 plus verses to arrive at the current text. So the only thing that we can speak about is that even if you accept the dating of the Indologists, which again I say it is mostly speculative, very approximate, there is no guarantee that it is correct. But even if you accept that, it is only dating of the extant text. And there is other aspect that it is Manu Dharma Shastras, Swayambhuva Manu, can be understood as the very ancient teacher whose teachings of Dharma itself, it has formed into all these various schools that I mentioned, that itself has formed into independent text, Smriti texts. So, for example, like Atri Smriti, Brihaspati Smriti, all these are teachers who have come in the line of transmission from Manu himself. So that means the Manu's teachings is at the very core of Dharma Shastra tradition.
So these works are separate works, or these are in a way condensed form of Manusmriti only? How?
No, it doesn't matter. It could be separate works also, but they are based on the same Dharma Shastra. So the idea is we need to differentiate between the knowledge system, that is a vidya, a stream of knowledge, and the text. The text could be many, but the vidya is continuously flowing.
So condensation is a separate process, and a new body of work is a separate process. Yeah, if I'm
yeah. So it could be possible. So, for example, the extant text of Manusmriti that we have is a text that has been received to us from a Bhrigu recension of the text. But we also have a Narada Smriti which is in the Narada's recension. But we call the Narada Smriti as Narada Smriti itself, Narada's composition. But Narada was also one of the condensation, one of the person who redacted the Manusmriti also. Narada was also one of the students, one of the schools of transmission of the Manusmriti. So it is a very complicated transmission, and it is very difficult to make any very categorical assertions that this is the only way it happened. So the point I'm trying to make is all the knowledge of Dharma, the Shastras attribute to the primordial, at the very beginning, the ancient teacher of Swayambhuva Manu, who himself directly learned from Brahma or Narayana, whatever it is. So all the knowledge about Dharma can be traced back to Manu in some form or the other form, right? So that doesn't mean we did not have other teachers. So, for example, Yagyavalkya was a great teacher. We have Yagyavalkya Smriti. Parashara was a great teacher. We have Parashara Smriti. So these are all great rishis, and they would also have engaged with the Dharma Shastra of Manu in some form or other. We may not have evidence of that, but we have the evidence that they were great rishis. They had deep knowledge of the Vedas. They had deep knowledge of the Dharma Shastras, and you will see that any Smriti Shastras you take, the text, the teachings will more or less agree with each other. There might be some issues wherein the particularities of a particular issue, there might be differences among the different teachers of Dharma, but there is a broad agreement. For example, all the Smritis use the framework of Varnashrama to give out their teachings of Dharma. Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Samanya Dharma, or Yuga Dharma, or all these are very core frameworks that all the Smritis function in. So this shows that despite disagreements on some smaller issues, there also we will have to check whether it is really a disagreement or whether their teachings are in different contexts. So it is possible the same teaching is in a different context takes a different form, and in different context takes a different form. So we have a very famous verse from one of the texts, I don't remember which text it is, which basically says, what is dharma in one context becomes the adharma in another context. What is adharma in one context becomes dharma in another context. So the point is, this also is a cause of why there are variety of teachings, diversity of teaching. And this is just like in the Upanishads. We have 10 Upanishads. We have, according to Muktika Canon, 108 Upanishads. But that doesn't mean that we are, there is no united layer. That doesn't mean that we reject them as problematic just because we have diversity of text. All the Upanishads speaks about the Brahman, that is about moksha, that is their goal, that is how they are united. Similarly, all the Dharma Shastras, all the Smritis speak about dharma, speak about sukha, swarga, chitta shuddhi that leads to moksha. So that is how they are united, despite the differences of opinion or differences of judgments on different aspects, intricacies of dharma.
So there is an argument that comes out that firstly that these smritis are for different yugas. So that someone say that Parashar Smriti is for Kali Yuga, and also that there is an argument that where they say that the problematic aspects of Manusmriti has been catered to in these new Smritis. So what would you say about that?
If that was so, then why? I mean, if Parashara Smriti already caters to what people consider as problematic, then why are people then saying that our constitution is our new Smriti? Or many people today claim that we need a new Smriti today. We need a Smriti for today. So, so the problem is with the arguments itself, not with the Smritis. So yes, Parashara Smriti does mention this, that Manusmriti was for Satya Yuga, Parashara Smriti is for Kali Yuga. But what is the correct understanding here? How should we understand this? Does it mean that Manusmriti is today not applicable? If this were really true, if this were the opinion of the Shastra tradition, then why does the Manusmriti has as many as 9 Samskrita commentaries written in last 1500 years? Parashara Smriti has only 1 commentary by Swami Vidyaranya. Yagyavalkya Smriti has 3 to 4 commentaries by Sureshwaracharya, which is also called as Vishwarupa Acharya, by Mitra Mishra, by Aparaditya, and by Vigyaneshwara, I think. So 4 commentaries we have on Yagyavalkya. But Manusmriti is the only Smriti which has 9 Samskrita commentaries from Baruchi, Medatithi, Kullukavatta, Ramachandra, Raghavananda, Govindaraja, Nandana, Sarvagyatma, so many people. Why are Manusmriti being quoted by great acharyas such as Shankaracharya, etc., who all lived in Kali Yuga? See, so it is not that Manusmriti has become irrelevant. What it means is the nature of Yuga changes. So Satya Yuga is the ideal, because Dharma stands on 4 legs there. So you have heard of this story from Bhagavata Purana, right? So that the bull of Dharma stands on 4 legs in Satya Yuga, and 3 legs in Treta Yuga, and through 2 legs in Dwapara, and only 1 leg in Kali Yuga.
Kali Yuga.
Yeah. So what this means is that some ideas, some practices of Dharma changes with yuga to yuga. That is what yuga.
What are those 4 legs? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Tapas, Shaucha, Satya, and
Dana.
Yeah, Daya is there, I think. So my earlier book, Samanya Dharma, has this bull of Dharma on its cover page with all the legs mentioned. So if I recall correctly, the Satya, Daya, Tapas, and Shaucha. I might have got 1 or 2 wrong, but these are the 4 legs. So the idea is very clearly that there are eternal principles of Dharma. See, Dharma is eternal, that is why it can be applied, it is relevant to us even today, it will be relevant in the future also. And even when they speak, and we have the Parashara Smriti, if you read Parashara Smriti, then you will see that Parashara Smriti is absolutely aligned with Manusmriti and other Smritis. What it does is, why this Parashara for Kali Yuga comes is, it gives certain contextualizations that are only relevant for Kali Yuga. It speaks about certain practices of dharma which can no longer be practiced in Kali Yuga, which are not to be practiced in Kali Yuga. This is called as Kali Varja. And it gives certain contextualizations that are applicable to Kali Yuga. You see, so why it is called as for Kali Yuga? So that means that the way to understand the Smritis and Dharmashastra is to take them in its entirety. I'm not dismissing the Parashara's claim that it is for Kali Yuga. I'm merely saying that even accepting that, it has to be seen as part of the larger Dharmashastra tradition. So no Smriti is to be studied in isolation, not even Manusmriti. Manusmriti, as I mentioned, already has 4 levels of redactions. I spoke about that, right? So that happened at different times. So current text that we have is very much composed in Kali Yuga, or at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, or at the end of Dwapara Yuga, whatever it is. That means it has teachings which are relevant to Kali Yuga embedded in it. But it also expresses the ideals of Satya Yuga. That means it expresses the dharmic ideals as it is, in its most idealized form. But we also come to know from Manu itself, but also from other Smritis and commentators, etc. Some of the practices are not to be practiced today, which are not, which have become Kali Varja. So this is the correct way to understand. The second part of your question is somehow the problematic parts have become removed by Parashara. See, it is not problematic for the Dharmashastrakaras themselves. It is problematic for us today because we are approaching them with our modernity mindset. Our society has deviated so much from Dharma, especially in the last 200 years, colonization, industrialization, and now technology and all. So it has so much deviated and become Arthakama predominant, and we have imported all these values from the Eurocentric values in our society and have made it the mainstream worldview. So when we now try to study the Smriti text, then everything appears problematic to us because we have become alienated from our Vidya tradition, from our Shastra tradition. So we have lost the Dharma Drishti. Because we have lost the Dharma Drishti, when we read the text in translations or cherry pick the verses and read it, then we don't relate to it. We can't make sense of it. And in fact, they appear wrong to us. So that is what there is problematic. This does not mean that we have to accept everything in the text and and practice it in two in a literalist format. It is not. That is not my claim. My claim is that even to criticize Dharmashastra, you have to have authentic understanding of Dharmashastra. So rather than politicization of the Manusmriti or other Dharmashastras or its exclusion from mainstream discussion, the correct approach is to develop sincerity, open-mindedness, open-heartedness, to engage with the text as a seeker with Shraddha. So in the book I mentioned that rather than hermeneutics of suspicion, the correct approach to understand our Shastra text is hermeneutics of Shraddha. Shraddha doesn't mean blind faith. Shraddha means a conviction that this text is teaching Dharma, is teaching something beneficial to me. So Dharma means which is beneficial. You have that conviction, that you have that honesty that I will engage the text on its own basis. That is what Shraddha is. So unless you do that, unless you are approaching the text with using a hostile framework, using preconceived biases, then the text will be a closed circuit. It will never open up itself to you. The Shastra is unlike a fiction novel. Shastra is a guru in itself. It is capable of revealing knowledge only when you approach it the way you approach a guru, with humility, with genuineness, with genuine seeking for knowledge, not for politicization. So then you are able to discover the layers of knowledge, layers of meaning hidden within it. That is why Shankaracharya, for example, says that asampradaya way, if you learn any Shastra text in a asampradaya way, in a teaching pedagogy which is alien to it, alien to our sampradaya, alien to our tradition, then you will never have authentic knowledge. You might have lot of information in you, but you will not know how to interpret those information, how to understand those information, how to apply those information, how to contextualize those information, right? So this is very important. So the problematic that you say is the problem of society being deviated from the ideals of dharma. So
When
what
everybody is living and leading a path of adharma, how come the dharmic shastra gonna make sense to them? Isn't it like that?
yes, I mean exactly. So we have become so addicted to arthakama
Hmm.
that what we are expecting when people say that today we need a new smriti, today we need a smriti, etc. What they are thinking is that their understanding about the function or the nature of the smriti itself is problematic. They think that smriti is a text which records the contemporary social ideas into a form of a book. That is not what smriti is. It is not. It has certain elements which is descriptive, yes, but the ideals of dharma is not descriptive. Ideals of dharma is revelatory. It has been given, it has been revealed by the rishis who are able to directly perceive the Vedas, directly understand the knowledge as it is in deep meditation, and they have given it. So, dharma, what is this dharma? Eternal relationship between karma and karma phala. This relationship is eternal. So, the dharma is eternal. And it is being taught to us for our welfare. And the rishis also teach us, the Manusmriti, for example, speaks about how to interpret, how to understand it, how to apply it in our lives. So this is what the Smritis, this is what the Dharma Shastra does. So what we need today is not a new Smriti text. What we need is a revival of Dharma Shastra tradition, wherein new works of Dharma are created, wherein the Dharma Shastra, Dharma Drishti is brought into mainstream discussions, be it on policy, the policy formation at the government level, be it in the jurisprudence, be it in socio-cultural discussions. Say, take the example of age of marriage, about abortion, about adultery laws, any other socio-cultural issues, any other environmental issues. So the dharma drishti, the dharmic perspective on these issues are completely missing from the discussion table, from the policy
True.
table. People simply parrot whatever the ideas are there in the West. This has to change. So this
They have become
work
our
that
reference point.
yeah. So this book that I have written, Chatuh Shloki Manusmriti, is one such attempt to. This is a Dharma Shastra work. This is not a Smriti, but this is a Dharma Shastra work. It is a commentary on this Manusmriti of the first four shlokas, but nevertheless, it is Dharma Shastra work. So what we need is a revival of Dharma Shastras, new works engaging with the core ideas of Dharma, so that we can bring dharma drishti to our lives, to our society, not as a not in the not in an authentic manner, not in the way that today this is what the society is, this is what people expect. So let us create a text that will affirm their biases, affirm their whims and fancies. That is not the work of Dharma Shastra to affirm people's expectations. So I remember, Shringeri Shankaracharya, in many of their discourses, they mention about how people come to them and tell them, please compose new Dharma Shastra, new text, because today we don't have time to do our Nitya Anusthana, the daily ritualistic duties that the Shastras impose upon us. We are living in a very fast pace life, corporate life, and all. We don't have time for that. So create a new text so that wherein it says that it is not needed to do this. This is real expectation of people. So the Acharya has been reported to respond to them. Don't you have time to read newspapers? Don't you spend time on watching TV? So we can extend that to today's time. Don't we see our mobiles? Don't we spend time on social media? So if we spend time on all those things, we can definitely make 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour for our spiritual practices, for our ritualistic duties also. So that was the Acharya's answer. He said that Shankaracharya did not start these pitams to create texts to affirm the whims and fancies of people, but rather to teach what is dharma, what our shastras say, teach them and for their own hitam, for their own benefits. So this has to be understood. We need to revive Dharmashastras, we need to engage with the Dharmashastras, we need to bring Dharmadrishti into table on all sorts of discussions on contemporary topics. That is the truly what is needed, not just politicization of the issue, making the statements that we need a new Smriti, or saying that I can create new Smriti. This is whatever book I am writing is the Smriti for today.
For modern time.
Yeah, a Smriti in its more technical sense. See, any human composition in some sense can be called as a Smriti, fine. But what is the technical definition of Smriti? Smriti means smarana, from memory. Memory of what? These people who directly understood, who have received knowledge about Veda, that knowledge they are recalling and systematizing as Smriti. So the base is the Veda. That is why the Manusmriti says Vedo Akilam Dharma Moolam, and Dharma Moola is Veda. And the Manusmriti again says that whatever is said in this Smriti has the basis in Veda. It is based on the Veda. So what does it mean? That rishis are not simply writing their whims and fancies. They are understanding what the reality is, the karma relationship that has been taught to us, revealed to us by the Veda, and that can be accessed in deep meditation, yogic meditation, and through that knowledge that they are sharing it for our benefit. But do we have rishis today? No. Kali Yuga, there are no rishis. There are no rishis in the real sense. Today we call everybody is a rishi, everybody is a muni. That's a very different matter. But Kali Yuga, we don't have rishis of that caliber. Even if we have a rishi of that caliber and they want to write a text of Smriti today, even then that Smriti has to be in line with what the Dharmashastras already say, what the Manusmriti and other Smritis already say. They may give special contextualizations of the teachings for today's time, but the core has to be the same. In one place, Brihaspati Smriti says, if any Smriti says or any text says that are contradictory to what Manu says, then that has to be discarded and what Manu says has to be accepted. Shankaracharya in his commentaries also speaks about, when he is criticizing the Samkhya school of Kapila Muni, he says that whatever Kapila Muni says, that is not in violation of Vedas, that is acceptable. But he quotes examples wherein Kapila Muni's ideas are in contradictory not only Vedas but also to Smritis such as Manu. Therefore, they are not acceptable. He says here, it's his statement in his understanding, in his concerned view. Manu and other Smritis are Vaidika Smritis. They are rooted in the Veda. They are authentic Smritis which express Vedic teaching. So any other Smritis, any other works that wants to have the similar status, then they have to be in alignment with the Vedas and the Smriti, Vaidika Smritis such as Manu, etc. It's not that today we will write anything and everything and we will call it a Smriti. You may call it, but it is not authentic.